G'day, doggies fans, all things Bulldogs. It's the podcast episode 14 or 13 or 15. I think it's 14 or 15. I keep losing count. I can't count very good. Anyway, Alamoti signs with the Panthers. We're going to talk about Paul Alamoti, a Jersey Flegg team. Congratulations to them. They are the first team through to the grand final this year, and they will await the winner of the Roosters, who they just smashed on the weekend. And, they will have to play the winner of them and the Eels. And whoever makes it is going to be very tough. Don't you worry about that. The Eels are on a massive run, and the Roosters have been the standout team all year. Dogs have had a lot of chopping and changing between Massey and Flegg to really, and also New South Wales Cup. A whole bunch of those kids are in, and Carla Lawapu looked a grade above in that grade, which is, I wish he started there, to be honest. But he showed that he's definitely beyond that grade and did his job really, really well. And we need him to do that in the grand final and get some real experience and feel great. Joash Papali'i, very good as well. Another player utilising experience. You can name lots of them, from Damon Marshall to Lipoi Hopoi, Harry Hayes, a whole bunch. Geordie Mazzone. Just looks like he could step in and do the job of a Wilson or a Fox. He's still rather lean, but God, he gets across that park and scored an amazing try down that left edge, just with his speed. Scored 3 tries on the day. Really good effort by the guys. Well done. I think Zach Montgomery was a late inclusion on the bench, and and then you got the other guys like young Luke Smith. I think he scored a try on that right edge as well. So well done to him, the Greater Northern Tigers product. And he made the countryside as well, representative team. Very good prospect for the Bulldogs. Pathways working well. And speaking about pathways, we'll talk about Alamoti. And then I wanted to also talk about, and I've got some footage from NRL 360. So sort of combining the NRL Media watch into the podcast this week. Just on the way that they can report the Raiders loss versus the Knights as opposed to the Roosters win versus the Sharks. And I say that for that reason. And just the way they report it, it's like Raiders lost their game, but the Roosters won their game. And I'll show you the footage and the headlines they use, and also why I think it's a bit of a conflict of interest. Braith, who manages, it's well publicised, he manages Cameron Munster, whose future's sorted, you'd think. You've also got Lachlan Ellis, who's currently signed at Souths and is the guy that they're working with as their halfback. He's kept Dean Hawkins in the wings for a while, and you've got some others coming through. Then you've got the likes of Jonah Peze, who has huge raps. A couple of Bulldogs fans I know have been like, Gus has to sign this fella. But he extended with the Storm as well. But I'm sure they're not on big money, Ilias or Peze. But I'm sure that a club that, in Braith's words, needs to get some halves, knowing that there's not many out there, well, you can put 2 and 2 together if you wish. But I'll show you that as well. But let's talk about Paul Alamoti. Now, end of last year, it was reported in that he had extended with the Bulldogs till the end of 2024. And this was assumed by many Bulldogs fans, and I think it was even reported in Zero Tackle as a signing for 2024. Gus eventually coughed up that he wasn't re-signed and he was off contract. Next, as Canterbury started to struggle, and Alamoti himself, not doing the real flashy stuff, not getting much room with the ball, basically taking the hard yard runs off his own try line, lacking forwards, few mistakes, lost kick out there who was really helping him out, and missed a few tackles, some bad misreads and stuff like that from a young rookie. lots of reasons for him to fail this year, and I think I would have given him a 6 out of 10 for his whole year. Many would give him less, but that's just how I see it. I really think that Paul Alamoti is a talent, and the Panthers know he's a talent. And this, I don't call this a failure of our club. We've recruited Stephen Crichton, Bronson Cherry. We've got Blake Taff, Jamin Salmon, and some others coming in as well. Now, not that they're the greatest signings in the world, and we don't know if they'll prove to be good yet. But the record's on the board with Stephen Crichton. He's got it there. The score's on the board with him. He's done it in the big games as a centre, right? Now, they can't keep him for the money that he could command. I don't think they're ever seriously going to look to pay him more than the $650 he was on, which he got pretty quickly. And he was always coming to the Dogs. Now, Paul Alamoti, he was as good as any of the young centres coming through. I think Targo is probably at a high level, and Taruva's done a great job this year as a fullback, playing on the wing, and they've got some other guys there that are all going to be able to fight for that position. But Paul Alamoti's in their capability range, and he'll do a job there, and he'll probably make us Bulldogs look silly. But it just comes down to it that it's about the team, all right, and how your team's going, especially in regards to positions like centre and wing. I don't know how many teams where they're getting smashed every week, but their winger or their centre are scoring heaps of tries, unless they're the sort of only focal point of attack that they've got. We had a team where Averillo was basically the one staying fresh. He wasn't doing the tough yards like Paul Alamoti. In all fairness, Alamoti was putting his hand up doing all the hard runs. So was Carraz. Fox did more and more as the year went on. But earlier in the season, the Fox and Averillo were more or less being kept sort of fresh to use their speed and to take advantage of opportunities. People seem to only look at those Hollywood moments. Averillo's in great form because of what him and Burns did in that game against the Dragons really put him on the map, even though he's done that to the Dragons numerous times. Look, we've talked about it till we're blue in the face about where Averillo should be. And many would have been happy to keep Jake and let Paul Alamoti go. I'm not going to sit there and look at this as another reason to kick the club in the guts or to kick Serrato in the guts. Because your centres, just ask Remus Smith and Nick Kotrick how easy it was playing centre at the Bulldogs in a team that had that many other teams performing better than them on a week-to-week basis. I know we've got some more stars in our team and more quality players in our team. I know that. And that's the idea. But we've bought some experienced players who aren't rookies, who are proven, and we've let a one-season rookie go, and half the fan base is sort of happy about this, probably even more. But the other half, and some of those same people, are going to be sitting there saying the club's made a mistake if he does well at another club. Well, he's not going to have a better chance to do well than to go to the Panthers. And even if I'd say he's taken a pay cut, and that's where people need to understand here. Here's a guy who was estimated was potentially going to get a $2.4 million deal from the Cowboys, right, for 3 years. $600,000 a season, they were talking in the media. A guy who was already being paid not to play first grade, already on, I think he was on 240, 250 as a young kid. He was on over 200 before he was even playing New South Wales Cup and then got injured and stuff. So we had paid him quite a bit of money. And when it come time to give him a 1-year extension, he probably saw the writing on the wall that with Bronson Cherry coming, the evolution of Jacob Carraz, Blake Wilson coming through the ranks, Jarrell Skelton, and then he's playing first grade and sort of probably wanted to see how he went as a rookie in this good team to see whether he could get himself a longer 2-year or 3-year deal. He said no to the 1-year extension. I think that upset the club a little bit potentially. I don't know. This is just me speculating. And then you've got a situation where we didn't perform well, and he was one of the scapegoats in that. Him and Hayes Perham were labelled as two of the major failures of the team and the coach, and I don't believe they were. I believe they had their moments and had some poor times in games and some games which were horrible. But I felt most weeks they try their hardest and were trying to bleed for the jersey. I have no doubt about that. But that doesn't mean they're not going to go to another club like Penrith and perform, right? And then we can say, oh, it's the coach's fault. It's our culture's fault. It's Gus's fault. People don't want to play for us. Well, some of the stuff that was said about Paul Alamoti, I'd be surprised that he would want to stay anyway, to be honest. He's a Bulldogs junior. And he got treated like, as a rookie player in a team that had no forward pack, just given no grace at all, really. I don't mind people who said maybe he just needs a bit of time in reserve grade to freshen up and then get a chance to come back and grow a little bit. Like, I've got nothing wrong with that, but some of the stuff that went around was terrible. But anyway, that's how fans are, right? In relation to Paul, I think he'll do well at Penrith, and I think it's a good thing for Penrith. They get a player in on a 1-year deal to do a job, and he'll probably add some, add an extra couple of $100,000 onto his. I reckon he's taken a pay cut to go there. I honestly believe that. I don't think he'll be on more than 150. But if he plays well in that team, that extra bit of cash will come. If he stayed for another year with Canterbury, it could have been the end of his career, potentially, just with where the two teams are at. It's a great move for him, and it's probably at the right move for us as well. We need more experience in those positions, people who can just aren't looking for the fanfare, just going to get their heads down, bums up, and work hard and take it as it comes. And a lot of our centres are going to be expendable, because in the right system, when you're managing your cap properly, they're the players you let go of. Unless the centres are going to turn into another position, like offer you something in the back row, unless they can play multiple other positions and offer utility value, unless they're going to turn into your next fullback or your 5'8" or something like that, unless they're Daly or Fittler coming through as centres, you're going to evolve into your next number 6s. Well, they're the expendable ones. If they're any good too, because if they need more money, well, you can't offer it to them. You can't overpay your centres and you can't overpay your wingers. It's as simple as that. You have your spine, you have a couple of marquee forwards, and then you fit the rest in. And if those players shine in a good performing team, which they do, they get paid overs at other teams and usually don't have the effect that those other teams need. Can even say that about the likes of the Kick-Owls and not so much Marnie. Marnie is in a position where he needs to influence. But, yeah, lots to talk about. But all the best for Paul Alamoti. It's a no-brainer for him. And I think it could be very good for his career. And I think it's the right move for Canterbury as well. I think it's a good party. We need more experience. And for them, they just need people who can come in, understand their position, do their job, and he'll get every chance to shine. And I believe he will. And that will give a lot of fodder for some fans to sling more dirt at the board and at Gus and the coach. But I really think it's they're not seeing the big picture. But they're continually told to look at it and continually told to be patient So I totally get it. Why they would be sick of listening to the status quo around that. I really do. But yeah. I like to play all sides of the field. Look, Braith Anasta, Jonah Peze, Lachlan Ilias, and Cameron Munster, all players he looks after. So if he's very critical of a halfback or if it says that a team doesn't have the right halves, which is fair enough on its own as feedback. But when he's utilising one game in particular to make that assumption, a big semi-final in front of a huge Newcastle crowd that Andrew John says was more crazier than the grand final or the prelims that they played there years ago under Wayne Bennett. Like, it was just the biggest he'd ever seen. And the noise, I think it got to his team as well. I think it got to the Knights. But you can imagine how daunting that would be for the Raiders. And the Raiders forwards really stuck in. They laid a platform, and I felt that Fogarty did a good job until those moments came later on. But look, that's fair enough as feedback. But then when we go and look at the other game between the Sharks and the Roosters, on the previous game, it wasn't how good the Knights were. It was how bad the Canberra Halves were, especially Carl Fogarty. Jamal Fogarty, I should say. No real talk of Crawley, or Frawley, I should say. Keep getting it wrong. No real talk of him, who got that try to level things up. Great try. Did some good things in the match. And not on very much money at all. You'd think this guy's been on minimum contract for his entire career. And he's starting to clock up some games. You know what I mean? Jamal, who still is very inexperienced as a half. Once the halves get, it's different when you're a halfback who comes into a team which is a top four side, and you've got experience all around you. And then you stay there for the next 5, 6, 7 years, and then you're considered a great halfback. This guy's in his third or fourth year. I think he's a good player. He just needs time. He needs to be able to learn from those mistakes. He needs to get those opportunities again. But to rule a line through him, which is basically what Braith has done, I reckon, ruled a line through him. And if he's influencing other fans of Canberra, maybe Canberra fans will look at all those stuff-ups and go, well, he's not going to get it done for us. And just like with Canterbury, look, we're coming near the bottom at the moment, right? But there was no difference. When we were making top 4, top 5, top 6, the team still and players in the team were still being criticised by fans. It doesn't stop. If you come in 6th, you want to be top 4. If you come in top 4, you want to be minor premiers. Until you're winning the grand final, there's reasons to complain and whinge. But yeah, I'm going to play the footage. Here. It goes for about 2 minutes, so bear with it. It won't be the best sound or anything. But yeah, you tell me what you think the difference is in the way they promote the Raiders loss versus a Roosters win, rather than if they gone out and promoted the Sharks as losing that match. Like Braith does say he can't understand how the Sharks lost it. And I get that. But it's more the promotion of how good the Roosters were rather than saying how good the Knights were as well. Like, there's just this complete hypocrisy the way they go about it. And I think, obviously, he's not going to sit there and target Nico Hines and sit there and say, like he won the bloody Clive Churchill. Or sorry, not the Clive Churchill, the Daily M. I'm losing my brain tonight. He won the Daily M. They're all in on him. He's not going anywhere, and he's not going to get any wins there. But he goes to the Canberra Raiders, who have got a player who's not as accomplished, hasn't had as many accolades, isn't on as much money either, I'd suggest. And apparently, the Raiders need to get rid of that player and go find a half somewhere when they also allude to the fact there is none, which is another Gus Gould thing that he said when they're constantly going on about our recruitment and retention, when there's no one to sign. But honestly, it's funny. Is he trying to get Jonah Pezzo a job with the Dogs or Lachlan Ilias? They're both signed at the moment. But surely with the way halves are at the moment, any that have got any talent and have shown they can do something in the first grade system are players that the clubs are going to buy and pay good money for and persevere with. And I think that Canberra should be persevering with Jamal Fogarty. Maybe they need another replacement for Jack Whiten or someone. But, yeah, they need to persevere with these halves. But Braith would have you think that he's not good enough. Well, who else is there? And I'm sure Chad Townsend wasn't considered the best half in the game, but they persevered with him at Cronulla after he went to the Warriors and come back. And he won a premiership. So surely Jamal Fogarty could do the same. But let's watch the clip anyway.
Huge underdogs, no one gave them a chance. And they should have won the game, in my opinion. They should have still won the game. To me, it highlighted their lack of depth in the halves there and not icing the big moments. And you could see that when it got to extra time. I wasn't confident, and it might be a bit harsh, but just because of the halves they do have, and Fogarty in particular, I was worried. I thought, who's going to take the field goal here? Who's going to grab this match in the finals and really get Canberra over the line? You can see there he had plenty of time there, Fogarty. He didn't hit that nicely. And this was another one here where he should have went for the field goal. Instead, he kicked it to the right-hand side. He was 10 metres in front of the uprights. And then he took two more shots and missed. This one here, this is a big one, right? Like, it's really inexcusable for a half in a moment like this, off a scrum, when you've got 20 metres to work with. Were outstanding. What a tough performance it was. One of the best victories in the club's history, given the circumstances. Players going down with injury. They looked gone. The Sharks were in complete control of this one. I don't know how they lost it, but the Roosters kept fighting. They dug deep, and they got it done. Rudy?
Yeah, well, I think they've shown a lot of heart. I think they've shown a lot of... They've been in good form, obviously, for the past 5 weeks. This was 6 weeks. And, Luke Keary aimed up when the game was on the line. And for me, that was the big difference between the teams. I think if you look at... I think Cronulla finished about where they are. I think if you put their spine up against the other teams who are still in the comp, it's not in the same level. They just don't have the star players that the Roosters, the Broncos, Panthers have. I reckon they're about where they are.
Where do they need players then? They had the Dalian player of the year.
Yeah, one
in the half.
They've got a good halfback. I'll give you that.
No?
Well, he's a promising player, but he's not the level of Harry Grant or...
There you go. So they allude to a couple of things there. So Brent Reid says that the Sharks haven't got the greatest spine. And who's he talking about? Brayley. And Braith sort of defended Brayley and said, well, there's not many Harry Grants. And then they started talking about Tracy and Will Kennedy. And they had Moylan there, who was a rep player. But Trindle they moved him out and brought Trindle in. Moylan was great last year. Wasn't as great this year. But at the same time, he never had his three big forwards on the pack. On the park together. Uwele, Rudolph, and Hunt. And they've all been injured all year. Finucane's out injured. They've still got McGuinness and Graham, Nakora. They still had a good pack, and they should have won that match. And no one's denying that. But the focus he put on Jamal Fogarty versus no focus on Nico Hines, I don't get it. Why wouldn't you have the exact same focus? I'll tell you why. Because the Sharks have just re-signed Trindle. Moylan's there, I think, next year as well. And you've got Nico Hines, who's probably going to be $1 million player in a year or two, right? So you can put 2 and 2 together. I just don't comprehend why he would be so critical of Jamal Fogarty in that situation. Like he was concerned at extra time. He's like, oh, I was worried. Were you? Well, he looks and sounds genuine, but so does Buzz. We all know what Buzz is like. It's the media, right? And I get it. But I just think it's a little bit poor form when you're managing halfbacks. And the other major point is he going to talk about Jonah Pezze and Lachlan? Lachlan Elliott next year will be on his 3rd year of first grade starting, right? Now, if Souths have a poor year, which they well and truly may, and Lachlan Elliott becomes out of favour, is he going to comment on him? Is he going to sit there and talk about the moments that Lachlan didn't nail? Because he hasn't really done that on NRL 360. And I do get it because he manages him, right? Like, I get it. But you really shouldn't be doing that on other players that play the same position, because it gives your player an advantage in the perception of the fans if you're not talking about it. And really, the people around him aren't really having a crack. Like even Munster, he misses that tackle on because Tony Staggs doesn't really cop the criticism for it because Braith is the manager. Look, I just think it's a conflict of interest. It's my opinion, and I don't. And I think there's big stakes at play. And when you're getting paid, I don't know if he gets paid money. I'd assume so. If you're making money and the people that you're looking after are making more money and that's helped along by comments that you can make to the wider public on your platform as a media journalist, I just think it's wrong. You know, people have a crack at Gus Gould and say that Gus does stuff like that. I think Gus is pretty consistent. I think he talks about his own team. He talks about his own players. He talks about opposition teams, opposition players, and there's no discrimination from what I can tell. But anyway, there we go. That's my thoughts. Dane is his anniversary. I don't know if I said that, so he couldn't come tonight, but he'll be here next week. Excited for a big game, Newcastle versus the Warriors. I think it's going to be one of the greatest games of the year, and it'll be like the grand final for these two teams. The winner of this game will go in and play the Broncos at Suncorp Stadium. I might even try and go to that game and be a fan of the team that is the Broncos, whoever it is, Newcastle or the Warriors. In my Bulldogs gear, of course. Because, I'd like to see the Broncos lose. I really would. The News Corp owned Broncos. You get my drift. But honestly, they've been a really good team this year. They've got that arrogance about them. They've got that aura back about them. They have. You watch when that right edge or left edge, whichever edge it is, and Reece Walsh is running at it, they'll be waiting for him to bounce around and do his thing. Like back in the days with Langer, no one tackled him. Just let him run. Let him run around and crab around until he made something happen. Telling you, they got their aura back. And I don't like it. I really don't. Anyway, thanks to everyone who's tuned in. Not everyone's going to agree with me about Braith here, but I just think that's just my focus, where it goes sometimes. Former Bulldog great who I have a lot of respect for, but that's just my opinion. Take care and go the Dogs. Grand final next week for our Jersey Flegg Boys. Be watching with a lot of interest to see if the Roosters or the Eels, who will be our opposition. And I think it'll be at Combank. So if it is the Eels, they'll have the home ground advantage essentially. But shouldn't worry our Dogs. Take care, everyone. Thank you very much. Go the Dogs.